Everyone, no matter who they are, faces obstacles. Betrayals, layoffs, illnesses, childhoods they didn't choose, heartbreaks they didn't see coming. None of it's easy. None of it's fair. But be honest, why should you let that stop you? What most people never realize is that the obstacles we face, the problems, the pain, the setbacks, they aren't roadblocks. They are the road. Or as Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the impediment to action becomes the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Rockefeller, Steve Jobs, Marcus Aurelius, they faced setbacks, betrayals, and losses greater than most. But they understood that obstacles are things to be expected and embraced. This philosophy has guided thousands of visionaries, leaders, and warriors through their toughest battles. And when that shift happens for you, you'll become dangerous, unstoppable, and free. Two people can go through the same situation and emerge completely different. One crumbles under the pressure while the other comes out stronger. But what's the difference? It's not luck or talent, but something much more subtle living inside every one of us: perception. Take John D. Rockefeller. He was just a young man when he lived through one of the worst financial crises the US had ever seen. The Panic of 1857. Stocks plummeted, businesses collapsed, and people lost everything. But Rockefeller didn't panic. He watched. He studied. He saw how fear made people act irrationally, how their own decisions turned bad situations worse. Rockefeller realized something powerful. The market is inherently unpredictable, but he could train his mind to see it rationally. Keep his head in difficult situations, and in his words, see the opportunity in every disaster. After this, Rockefeller navigated a civil war, multiple market crashes, and brutal competition with unprecedented grace. Within 20 years, he controlled over 90% of the American oil market. It might be tempting to think that Rockefeller was born this way, but it's not true. He learned it. And later he would claim he was grateful for those early years of hardship. They forged his perception, and perception is everything. What mattered to Rockefeller and what should matter to you is not your obstacles, it's how you see them and how you respond. When you are faced with an obstacle, you can panic like the crowd, or you can pause to place it in perspective and focus only on what can be controlled. This choice isn't automatic. It's a habit you build through clarity, logic, and self-discipline. The power of perception is already within you, and it is far greater than you realize. This is how you learn to use it. In the mid-1960s, Rubin the Hurricane Carter was on track to be a boxing champion, until he was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Most would break, but Carter refused. He controlled what he could: his attitude, his focus, his mind. He spent 19 years studying law and philosophy, fighting for his freedom. When he was finally exonerated, he didn't even demand an apology, because he never let prison take anything away from him. His mindset was his power. Even in prison, no one can deprive you of your right to control your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Carter knew he couldn't just walk out of prison, but he was never powerless. He saw the situation for what it was, and with some discipline and optimism, what it could be. The story you tell yourself about the obstacle in your way, and whether you even tell yourself a story to begin with, is your choice. As Shakespeare put it, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. This is the power of perception. Ulysses S. Grant, general in the Union Army and 18th President of the United States, was famous for his legendary cool-headedness. Even running into battle, Grant always kept his cool. 100 years later, astronauts had to master the same skill. NASA knew that clear thinking under pressure was the difference between life and death. Every move in space had to be rehearsed until it was second nature. Steadying your nerves means refusing to be intimidated, understanding that you're in control, and accepting that you have a job to do. The next time you face a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, when your boss demands more or the computer system fails, ask yourself, do I become a pile of raw nerves, or can I stare this down? Because remember, it's your perception that counts. If you hold your nerve, every crisis is an opportunity waiting to be taken. The 16th century samurai Miyamoto Musashi was famed for being able to defeat opponents even without a sword. He distinguished between the observing eye and the perceiving eye. The observing eye takes in everything that's happening around it without judgment or distraction. It sees obstacles for what they are. The perceiving eye layers things onto reality, assumptions and consequences, real or imagined. It makes obstacles seem insurmountable. Your strength lies in being able to alter your perspective, to use your observing eye at will, to see situations as they objectively are, seem insurmountable. Are. Remember, we can't seem insurmountable. Are. Remember, we can't seem insurmountable. Remember, we can't change the obstacle itself, but we choose how to look at it. If perception is the key to understanding obstacles, knowing what's in your control and what is not is crucial. Other people, the economy, trends, natural disasters, the list of things you cannot control is endless. But your emotions, your attitude, your judgment, your decisions, that you can. It's up to you. Focus exclusively on what you can control. And remember, you can only control what you do today. General Motors, Procter & Gamble, United Airlines, Microsoft, and LinkedIn were all started during an economic depression or crisis. Of course, the founders of these businesses didn't know at the time they were living in some historically significant period. They had products and services to sell, payroll to meet, a job to do. Businesses that thrive operate from where they are, not where they'd like to be or where they used to be. Similarly, we often waste our time thinking about how things should be, as though anything other than how things are is important. We live in the moment, and all that matters is what we do right now. Catch yourself when you find your mind wandering, and force yourself to focus on just what you're doing right now. Do not worry about the future or the past. Focus on the present. After the Allied invasion of Normandy in 1944, the Allied powers stood in awe of the German tactic of blitzkrieg. Columns of panzer tanks rushed into battle, and in most cases, the opposing armies had simply surrendered. That was the German strategy: be such an imposing obstacle the enemy simply gave up. But this was not so with General Dwight Eisenhower. Eisenhower realized that blitzkrieg was flawed. By allowing the German army to advance, the Allies could attack from the sides and encircle them completely. The invincible German attack was inherently self-destructive, but only because Eisenhower could see the opportunity within the obstacle. We've all had a bad boss at some time. If you're willing to leave your job, you can try new styles of communication or standing up for yourself while you update your resume. The obstacle is not the enemy. With the right perception, it's an advantage. Once you can see obstacles with creativity, objective, rational, ambitious creativity, the next step is absolutely essential. A clear head makes for steady hands. Now you must put those hands to use. You must act. Demosthenes, the greatest orator of ancient Greece, was not born naturally eloquent. As an orphan, his inheritance was stolen by corrupt guardians, and determined to seek justice, he took them to court, only to find that his weak voice, shortness of breath, and awkward delivery made an ineffective speaker. Rather than accept failure, Demosthenes subjected himself to intense self-discipline. To strengthen his voice, he recited speeches over the roar of the ocean or while running uphill. He practiced speaking with pebbles in his mouth to improve articulation, and even shaved half of his head to force himself into isolation. Through rigorous practice, Demosthenes developed an unmatched command of rhetoric. He won his legal battles, restored his wealth, and became Athens' leading statesman. Although fate dealt him a difficult hand, Demosthenes proved that determination and work could overcome any obstacle. When he was asked what the 3 most important traits of speechmaking were, his reply spoke volumes. Action, action, action. When faced with an obstacle, so many people fail to take action, even when they know what to do. The conditions might not be to your liking. Maybe they'll never be, but that doesn't mean you get a pass. Change is a function with a single variable: action. Your only choice is to embrace your obstacles. Get up right now and get going. Evolution is a gradual process that occurs through tiny iterations. One random mutation makes an animal less likely to reproduce, and over time, its species disappears. Meanwhile, the mutation that makes a hummingbird's beak sufficiently curved to fit inside a floral tube makes the species flourish. Businesses understand this perfectly. The failure of a product or service is simply a data point, an opportunity to improve it and try again, but nothing is taken personally. Failure is inevitable, but see it for what it really is: feedback. Precise instructions on how to improve. Failure is trying to teach you something. Over time, failure shows you the way forward precisely by showing you the paths to avoid. If you can survive a setback, if you can listen to failure, iterate and improve over and over again, you can grow. In 1851, future President James Garfield was a 20-year-old college student. Or in other words, he was broke. The only way he could afford tuition was to work as a janitor, so every morning before class, he'd mop the floors of his university, and he took pride in doing it well. When it came to his homework, he also made his best effort. Within 1 year, Garfield became a professor at his university. 5 years later, he was dean, and then president, because that's what happens when you do your job well, whatever it is. Only self-absorbed jerks think they're too good for their situation. Whether it's mopping floors, studying for an exam, or leading your country, everything you do to overcome your obstacles matters. Every situation is an opportunity to excel, so take it. Treat your duty with pride. You can always do it right. That does not mean, however, that you should follow the rules. In 1915, 2 rival fruit companies were bidding over the same 5,000 acres of land in Central America. The problem? 2 locals both claimed to own the deed. United Fruit, powerful, rich, and corporate, sent in an army of lawyers to untangle the legal mess. But Samuel Zemery, the scrappy underdog, didn't waste time. He met with both owners and bought the land from each. Yes, he paid twice, but at the end of the day, he owned the land. This is pragmatism in action. Too often, we stall, waiting for perfect conditions. We obsess over how things should be done instead of asking what works. Be a radical pragmatist, grounded in ideals, yes, but practical, aggressive, and guided by the possible. The goal isn't to do things perfectly, it's to get things done. Under enough pressure, any obstacle will simply collapse. During the American Revolution, George Washington's army was smaller, weaker, and less well equipped than the British. But Washington was a strategist, wily, evasive, and always thinking ahead. He refused to fight the British on their terms. Instead, he hit them when they least expected, like his famous Christmas Day raid ambushing German mercenaries in their sleep. History glorifies direct confrontations, but real victories come from the flanks, from psychological warfare, from drawing opponents out of their defenses. When faced with an obstacle, most people try to brute force their way through. They try to out-argue, outspend, or outmuscle their opponents, and inevitably fail. But the best move? Go around. Find leverage. Do the unexpected. This is acting like a strategist. Choosing where, when, and how to throw your weight around and never doing it unnecessarily. When Mahatma Gandhi fought for India's independence, he didn't meet British power with equal force. He let the British defeat themselves. By marching peacefully, breaking unjust laws, and refusing to retaliate, he forced the empire into an impossible choice: suppress peaceful protest and look like villains, or surrender their rule. The more the British fought, the more they lost. That's the power of using obstacles against themselves. Sometimes action looks like standing still, stepping aside, or even moving backwards. So next time you face an obstacle, don't just charge ahead blindly. Remember, a castle might be impenetrable, but if you surround it, it's a prison. Let the obstacle wear itself out, defeat itself, and when the time is right, step forward and take what's yours. Arthur Ashe was the picture of composure in sport. On the surface, he was calm, restrained, never arguing calls, never showing frustration. But beneath that control was something else. A powerful, fluid game charged with energy. He played with daring, grace, and an explosive boldness that stunned his opponents. His mantra was physically loose, mentally tight. We all face restrictions, rules, expectations, limitations. We can waste energy fighting them, or we can transform them into a fuel. Water doesn't rage against a dam. It stores power and turns it into enough electricity to power a city. Every obstacle is an opportunity. Every blockade can be a breakthrough. But what do we do? When setbacks arise, loosen up, adapt, stay in control where it matters, inside. That's the mindset we need. The greats don't crumble under pressure. They don't lash out or freeze up. They flow. They channel every frustration, every challenge, every obstacle into forward motion. And that's why they win. In 2008, Barack Obama's campaign faced a crisis. A scandal threatened to sink him. The political move would have been to hide, deflect, or apologize. Instead, he did something different. He seized the moment. With the public's eye turned to him, Obama gave the "A More Perfect Union" speech, turning controversy into momentum. What could have been his downfall became a defining moment of his presidential campaign. When disaster strikes, most people freeze. They retreat, avoid, or wait for the storm to pass. But the greats, they never waste a crisis. Failure, setbacks, tragedies, these aren't just obstacles, they're fuel. They're catalysts for change. The screenplay you were always going to write? Now that you're stuck in bed recovering, you finally have time. The heartbreak that shattered you, that's the raw material for something powerful. The job you just lost? That's your chance to start over. Napoleon knew that battles aren't won in brute clashes, but in subtle moments, when one side hesitates and the other seizes control. That's what separates the greats from everyone else. They don't just endure tough situations, they use them. Perceptions can be managed, actions can be directed, but what you can't do is control the world around you. Some obstacles may turn out to be simply impossible to overcome, but that is not necessarily bad. If you can master the principle of will, even the impossible can work in your favor. Will, even the your favor. Will, even the Abraham Lincoln's struggles were precisely what prepared him for the storm that was the Civil War. While others panicked, he endured. His pain fueled his compassion. His patience came from lived experience. His purpose transcended himself. Lincoln's real strength lay in his will. The way he could resign himself to do whatever was necessary without giving in to hopelessness. It allows you to thrive despite suffering, to endure when others break, and of course, to view your struggle in a different light. Even an impossible obstacle can offer a chance to practice some other skill or virtue. A betrayal is a chance to practice forgiveness. A failure teaches acceptance. If nothing else, we can help others. Unlike perception or action, the will is fully yours to command. This is how. Theodore Roosevelt had spent his entire life battling asthma. By age 12, weak and frail, he faced near nightly brushes with death until his father challenged him. "You have the mind, but not the body. Build it." And so Roosevelt did. Day after day, he trained, reshaping his body and fortifying his mind. By his 20s, asthma no longer ruled him. This discipline would prepare him for the trials ahead: loss, political enemies, war, even assassination attempts. He was ready for it all. We assume our weaknesses are permanent, that hardship is to be avoided, but the world is indifferent to our struggles. The Stoics knew this and built their inner citadel, a mental fortress no adversity could breach. We're not born with this armor. Our inner citadel must be built in good times so that it may shield us in bad. Like Roosevelt, we must train. We must embrace challenges, physical and mental. One day, hardship will come. Uncertainty will test us. The question is, will you be ready? On the eve of a major launch, a CEO gathers her team and asks, "The project has failed spectacularly. What went wrong?" It hasn't failed. Yet. But by envisioning disaster before it strikes, she prepares for it. Too often, people don't plan for failure because they refuse to imagine it. But reality doesn't bend to our wishes. Plans rarely unfold perfectly, and what we think we deserve is rarely what we get. The world is indifferent, and life will humble those who aren't prepared. The Stoics called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca would visualize everything that could go wrong before a journey: storms, illness, pirates. If any of those things happened, he would not be surprised. "Nothing happens to the wise man against his expectation," he wrote. This mindset isn't about pessimism, it's about preparation. As the old saying goes, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Ask yourself, what if it fails? What if something goes wrong? What if disaster strikes? If things go right, great. If not, we're ready. The world will call you a pessimist, but who cares? It's far better to seem like a downer than to be blindsided. With anticipation, you don't crumble, you endure, you adapt, and in doing so, you will turn possible misfortunes into opportunities. Thomas Jefferson wasn't a great speaker, and he never tried to be. Instead, he focused on his writing. When the Founding Fathers came to write the Declaration of Independence, they knew who to turn to. Jefferson wrote it in a single draft. Life is full of constraints. We can either resent them or move on. Jefferson's limitation, accepted rather than resisted, led to strengths he may never have otherwise discovered. The Stoics called this the art of acquiescence, accepting what is beyond our control. It's not about giving up, it's about recognizing when resistance is futile. A detour doesn't mean you stop driving, it just changes your route. History's greatest leaders understood this. George Washington, on the eve of war, said the event is in the hand of God. Eisenhower, before the Allied invasion of Sicily, acknowledged the answer is in the lap of the gods. They planned, they acted, but they accepted what was out of their hands. The world has never been fully within our control. The ancients knew this better than we do. Man proposes, God disposes. Life is a game of dice. We don't control the outcome, but as long as you keep rolling, you'll get your six. Proposes, God disposes. Life is a game of dice. We don't disposes. Life is a game of disposes. Life is a game of Like any other person born into this world, you too will face setbacks, failed plans, lost jobs, unexpected hardships. Should you complain? Or like Thomas Edison, should you smile and move forward? The Stoics taught amor fati, loving your fate. That means being cheerful in every situation, even the bad ones. It's easy to tolerate difficulty. It's powerful to love it. Because if it happened, it was meant to happen. And if it was meant to happen, it's fuel to make you stronger, sharper, better. Do not waste energy wishing that things were different. Love what is, accept it, adapt to it, and smile. Not because it's easy, but because it's the smartest, strongest thing you can do. Odysseus fought 10 years of war only to face 10 more trials. Storms, monsters, captivity, setbacks at every turn. Yet he pressed on, not just with persistence, but with perseverance too. There's a difference. Persistence is hammering at a problem until it breaks. Perseverance is weathering storm after storm, knowing there will always be another. It's the long game, the iron will to endure, not just one battle, but all of them. That's what made Churchill unshakable, what made Magellan endure hunger better than his men. It's what Emerson saw lacking in his time and would be appalled to see today. Too many quit at the first setback. The roadblocks seem too high, so they don't even try. But history belongs to those who push forward, who, like Ulysses S. Grant at Vicksburg, refuses to accept failure. Who, like Beethoven, believes no barrier can stop an iron will. You may be blocked in one direction, so go another. Keep moving. Even if your plans crumble, your determination doesn't have to. The only true defeat is surrender. Churchill's motto was KBO, keep buggering on, and that's the only way through. So hold on, hold steady, persist, and persevere. When Navy pilot James Stockdale was shot down over Vietnam, he knew he would be imprisoned, tortured, and possibly even killed. But instead of despairing, he focused on something bigger than himself. He became a leader to his fellow prisoners, giving them strength and unity in the face of suffering. In the Korean War, American prisoners of war had turned on each other, fighting to survive. Stockdale refused to let history repeat itself. He built a network of support, reminding his men unity over self. John McCain was offered early release, but he chose to stay and endure torture rather than abandon his comrades. Most of us won't face prisoner camps, but we face economic struggles, personal crises, and moments of doubt. In those moments, pitying yourself is easy. Looking out for yourself alone is tempting, but it weakens us. Henry Rollins put it best: there is no better time than now to have a moral and civic backbone. Helping others strengthens us. Taking the focus off ourselves gives us purpose. Whatever you're going through, someone before you has endured worse, and someone after you will face it too. So shift your perspective. Think beyond I. Be strong for others, and you will find your own strength. Serve something greater, and you will never feel alone. In the final years of his reign, Marcus Aurelius faced an unexpected challenge when his trusted general Avidius Cassius rebelled, declaring himself emperor after hearing rumors that Aurelius was dying. Instead of seeking vengeance, Aurelius kept his emotions in check and did not share the news with his troops. He chose the right perception. He wasn't angry and wouldn't say a bad word about his friend. And he chose the right action too. He planned to march against Cassius, but not to punish him. His goal was to forgive him. However, before he could act, Cassius was assassinated. This turn of events allowed Aurelius to practice forgiveness on a larger scale. Despite being betrayed, he refrained from executing any of Cassius' supporters. He believed in maintaining his reign free from bloodshed and revenge, demonstrating that obstacles such as betrayal and rebellion could be overcome through wisdom and restraint. Aurelius' actions embodied the Stoic philosophy that obstacles are not only inevitable, but valuable. The Stoics believed that life's trials could refine one's character, transforming adversity into strength. Aurelius showed this through his calmness, forgiveness, and unwavering commitment to his principles. Instead of seeing difficulties as setbacks, he recognized them as opportunities for personal and moral growth. However, this mindset is not reserved for emperors alone. Anyone can adopt the Stoic approach to adversity. By viewing challenges as chances to improve, we can transform difficulties into stepping stones for growth. Like Marcus Aurelius, we can choose to act with integrity, turning what seems like a roadblock into the very progress we crave. The obstacle truly becomes the way. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. And if you want to immerse yourself in another book-turned-blockbuster, click the video on screen right now to learn the simple habit that will turn you into the person you were always meant to be. The slight edge.